I didn't really have a reason to start. It just began. Okay. Great, guys.
Actually, my film comes about because I've been helping out my seniors for the FYP, and they've been filming around Bangkok, and I'm actually interested in the culture over there. So that's how I decided to do a documentary about it. And since both of us were taking the same documentary mod at that point of time, we decided to, why not, give a shot. Yeah.
Ours was an assignment where we were all assigned one of the 7 sins. So our sin was envy, and the challenge was to portray the sin in a positive way. So we started googling like opposites of envy, and then we came across the term Mudita, and that's when our director said that we could do something regarding his mother because his mother is a Muslim. So that's how I did it.
Well, for anyone here who may have a question or a comment, you can sort of just shout it out to any of the filmmakers that are present here. Does anybody have anything? Okay. Well, maybe I understand for all of you, it's actually a school project, right? Aside from time restraint, I suppose time restraint is one of the biggest constraints that you would have. How did this affect your research and your actual interviewing process and getting to know your subjects before you had to put it all together on the big screen?
Time restraint was very much more of researching, and another thing that we faced was more of information was very scarce, especially about the practice of child marriage. Basically, the community does not openly talk about it, and the NGO that we work with actually advised us against speaking with the elders because they are quite against foreign people which are not from their village to talk about this kind of stuff. So I think our main time constraint came about when we were in India. We basically went there knowing only a few interviewees that the NGO has managed to secure for us, and we had 21 days there basically, and we had to find our way to get an angle, get the story out, understand how the whole community, from the girl who's involved to the parents, the grandparents, why are they doing this? So it's a very short amount of time to get to know the whole picture when before getting there you basically only knew that poverty was the main reason. So that was our challenge.
Okay, for Ruslan, because it's actually a very unique individual because he lives under expressway over here. So he's been there for like 15 years, earning his living fishing and so on and so forth. And actually, it's all based on his past. At the same time, we actually had an interview with Hafiszah Halfway House, which is still currently running, whereby they're still taking batches of inmates when they try to the term will be actually not brainwash, but actually change them for the better, to give a better understanding of the rules and the positive things of society that they can accept.
Did the time restraint affect your
yeah, it does, because at the same time, as Ruslan has said, that he's getting this obviously back in the US, so we want to do the documentary before he has to leave the place. So that's one of our main concerns as well.
I think time constraint was definitely an issue for us. We were given 1 month to film everything, but we ended up doing a lot of research, and we continued on, I think, to about 3 months, especially for my film, because halfway through, as you guys saw, someone passed away. So it was a huge issue of, so what am I going to do now? And how am I going to turn this around, and how am I going to do this in a way that's right? Can I even continue with this film? So there was a lot of things with time in my film. Yeah.
Time restraint was also an issue for us because we had only less than a month to shoot it because it was an assignment, and we didn't know any contacts there, so we actually had to go for location recce and to try to talk to people and gain their trust. because when you shoot these kind of things, it's easier when you gain their trust and you can get them to open up. And another thing we faced was the first person that we wanted to interview actually backed out of us. So we actually had to find another interview with the help of the owner. She introduced us to Madam Razak, and that's how we actually made the connection between the two of them. Like, oh, they have a very interesting relationship because one's a Malay and one is a Chinese, and she is like part of the family. That's what really interests us, so we decided to film the two of them. So the concept changed a little because of this issue.
Just to add on, and then we also find our subject, Madam Hafiszah. She's actually very obsessed with her garden. So when we actually approached her, she was like introducing us all her gardens, all the plants and trees. And I think that in a way, it's actually a very interesting thing to actually focus our documentary around this idea of garden. That's why kebun, yeah, and how this kebun is very meaningful to her. At the same time, this kebun, in a way, in the kampung itself, how the community-wise, the community is very bonded and stuff. Yeah.
For us, I think we're the most luckiest because our subject is we had direct contact with the subject, right? So, as he's our teammate, so we only had 3 weeks to do everything, but it was easy because we could just talk to Melvin and his mom every day. So yeah, it wasn't really that hard for us.
Okay. Oh, actually, that's quite interesting that it's such a personal story relating to one of you. As the collaborators of the film, did you actually manage to get some creative input into how the story was going to go, so that it looks a lot like how he wants it to be told, because it is his story?
I think that's why all of us had an equal credit as producer, because we all contributed to the story itself. We didn't want it to seem self-indulgent for him as the director and the subject itself. So yeah, we all had input and we all agreed in how we wanted to tell the story.
I guess relating to that, because every story here today it's a personal story, and I'm sure it requires, as with every other thing in life as well, I'm sure it requires quite a lot of trust and spending time with your interviewees before they actually manage to open up to you. Did you feel the need that you also have to share some part of yourself so that your subject is open to what you're trying to say or film about them?
It was, I think the hardest part about getting the story out was getting Melvin to actually open up about it. Even though he wanted to make this film, he was still terrified about telling his story. So yeah, there was a time when he couldn't tell the whole group about his insecurities towards his family. So I pulled him aside and we just talked one-on-one, and it seemed better for him to just reveal it to one person first, and then make himself understood to one person, and then from there we slowly build it up.
Okay, for me, I think it's more of I really have to thank my group member, Engku there. Yeah, because both of us, because we had to converse in our native language, Malay. My Malay is not exactly that good enough, so somehow she helped me along. And then for Marissa wise itself, she interacted more with Marissa. So in a way, because since we are from diverse background, it's easier to communicate with the our subject wise within our native language, because we are not very familiar with English. Yeah.
Do you both feel like you could relate to a story about say changes that you had to go through, and did you actually also have to open up about yourself to get her to open up to you?
Yeah, in a way,
actually it's not a matter of opening up, because they are actually pretty friendly. So we had this whole very casual thing. It's more of like conversation. She can ask me any question about myself and I'll answer that. So it was actually very fun to document the film and ask questions at the same time. So I think there wasn't any difficulty in getting them to open up on both our sides?
I think for me, we definitely, before the cameras even rolled, I think we had about half a month of, like, I'd just meet them for coffee, or I'd just kind of hang out with them in their homes and tell them what the project's about, how I see it, how we're going to do it, and what they're comfortable with. So once we kind of established that, and I'm also quite a jokey person myself, I learned that if you let your guard down, they also let their guard down. So that definitely helped myself.
For Ruslan, I think he's quite open about his past. At the same time, yeah, of course, there must be some mutual understanding and communication involved. So I actually thank my producer, Abdul, over there. He actually translated for me, and also helped me go through the interview, because we wanted to make it as authentic as possible. That's why I wanted him to speak in his most comfortable language, which is Malay. So on that hand, we also have to talk open our pace, whereby so that they can be open for us to shoot as well, because there's still some touchy issues in between because of society and people who just came up from prison. So so we actually met up quite a couple of times to make sure we go through all the necessary details and to just basically give a mutual understanding of each other. And eventually we managed to let Ruslan tell more of himself to us. So,
I guess for us it's like it's not really about opening up to them with our own stories so that they will, it's more of like to befriend her and let her trust us to tell her story. So that's what we need to do. I mean, to let her know our intention of why we are actually doing this docu. And I think that although it takes some time to actually allow her to open up to us, but I guess because she understands our intention, so I think that's okay, not too tough.
Well, I'm curious about Durga as well as, I mean, the main protagonist is a young girl. For you guys as well, you're young ladies. Did she ever ask you about how it was different maybe in your life, that you didn't have to go through such a thing, or is there anything that she wanted to know about the other side of the world from what she already knows?
Yeah, I think she did ask us about how's life in Singapore and all, but sometimes I think it's quite abstract to her. At the same time, I think what really struck her is that our whole team are single and not married. I mean, we're not married. So that to the village and to everybody there is actually a very weird phenomenon.
With documentaries as well, I guess with filmmaking, there's lots of things that are always unexpected, and I think with documentaries, especially dealing with people's lives as well, did all of you ever have a moment where you were told or you felt like you were sort of overstepping your boundary in making this film and pushing a little bit too much, asking about the interviewees to reveal themselves?
I think for my film, it's more Melvin was terrified, and he didn't tell his mother about the true intention of the film. He just told his mother that this whole team is coming to film about her as a Buddhist nun, and it's not about him exploring the parents' divorce and everything. So yeah, that I was kind of afraid that his mom would be angry about it. But then, when we met her, she was very welcoming, and she was very nice. And actually, she doesn't have a problem with us talking about her family issues. It's just Melvin. It's all in his head. He's just terrified of making the first step to confront his mother about his issues since 8 years ago. So yeah.
For us, actually, when we are actually doing the documentary, there's this news about there's this sensitive news about Bangkok asking people to pay for entry to the kampung itself. So when we were actually there to document the whole documentary, we were actually very wary of this because we are strangers, and that's why we actually try to not invade too much to their space, but at the same time trying to make them feel comfortable with us and get to know them and they get to know us. So I mean, it's a two-way thing. Yeah.
Those must have been quite the biggest blow of it when someone's passed away as well. How did you end up making the decisions to continue shooting and still trying to respect that it's such a difficult time for some of the characters?
We definitely had some crew disagreements. I can be open with that. Half of us wanted to film the funeral, and half, well, I was very, very against that actually. I was the only one within the crew that I was kind of like, no, I don't want to film it, I don't want to see people crying, and I think I can solve it in post. Of course, that is a very famous saying, because then I spent the next 4 or 5 weeks like utterly out of my head, kind of just like, oh my god, I'm stitch this up, can I continue it? Where's my end? Because it was supposed to have a different ending. If you guys noticed, the day that Nelson passed away was the day we were supposed to do a formal interview with him. So we were actually on the way to go film him, and we had a call from Jimmy that said, guys, you can't film. And I'm just like, what? What happened? And he basically told us what happened. So with all of our camera equipment, we just kind of hung out at a coffee shop and went, shit, well, wow. Then I guess I decided to look at archive footage because about a week and a half later I decided, since we've done this, and I had a personal talk with Nelson's wife, and I said, I'd like to continue it if you're comfortable with it, because I want to kind of make it in memory of him, and I want to kind of end this right for you. And she was actually very, very supportive of that. She was more supportive of that than I expected her to be. And she basically said that, she told me that Nelson said that when we began this project, he really wanted to do good for the whole crew, for me, and he wanted to show the world what the Elvis community was like, because every single one of those members have this image that they're going to bring Elvis back to life, because they seriously want to make Elvis back in the present. They don't. They told me that Justin Bieber, like, seriously, why? So they said, like, yeah, they really wanted to make Elvis more popular than Justin Bieber, because they basically thought Justin was a travesty. So yeah, so here we are at the end of it.
For Ruslan, it's not much big of an issue, because we were actually quite open to the whole intention of the film. Of course, there are some like hiccups along the way. For the shoot regarding the butchery, we actually had to organize a second time, because the very first time his mom was hospitalized, which is why we couldn't go to the shoot. And of course, like along the way, we're actually it's quite smooth, I would say, the journey to actually film him. And he actually understands how like these things work, whereby like once he promised us that he's gonna give a small outlook of his life, we actually delved a little bit into more, and we actually find out like his plan of his future, which is, he actually did it at the start of the production. He wasn't even sure about his future, but as it goes along, whereby there are like things whereby he has to be evacuated, he's forced to make certain plans, and at the same time, we're actually happy that we go through this process from him staying there for 15 years and finally moving out from that place. Yeah.
Was the I mean, I felt that it was quite interesting in your film that Ruslan was so open and such a colorful character, but his mentor, who also played such an important role in the story, he didn't want to be filmed. How did that affect your filming and how you wanted to tell your story? Was it also a case of that he just didn't want to reveal it, and did you try to push a little bit further?
Yeah, we did. So when we first heard that from the mentor that he didn't want to be filmed, we thought that maybe it's because of his lives, he's connected to Hafiszah, and he didn't want to be a representative of Hafiszah, because what makes him special to Ruslan is actually as an individual mentor, whereby he really connects to this mentor. So although much frustration, like he still uncomfortable in front of, like, showing his face in front of camera, we just like respect his decision. And in fact, I don't think actually it will affect a lot about the whole film, because eventually he is telling us the experience of Ruslan, and yeah, so we've got like other ways of Hafiszah actually bring it across. So
Yeah, I think for us, we had 3 points with some kind of this issue. Firstly, it was from the start to the end of the project, we constantly discussed how do we want to portray this child marriage. We didn't like the idea of the child marriage. We think it's wrong, but is it right for us to tell the audience that this is wrong? So in the end, we all agreed that after interacting with Durga and her family, we really felt that we are not right to judge. So let's try to portray it in a way that how Durga felt, how her family felt. And it's not just the girl who's suffering alone, although this culture is put on from the previous generation to the next generation. So this is our way of staying true and our way of thanking Durga and the family for opening up to us. So we leave the audience to decide what they felt about the marriage. And the second point was when the NGO connected us with the school where the girls were at, which is Bernie Institute. So they basically told us that you can't tell the principal that you are here to film about child marriage or child rights. So that was weird to us, but we went by what they said anyway. So when we first arrived on the day we met the principal, we didn't tell him that we are here to film about child rights, but he does know that the girls that we're interacting with are child rights. So the way it was being told to them is that we are here to understand how child rights are receiving education and trying to get out of the situation. So we didn't really feel comfortable with that because it felt like it was lying to them. In the end, on the last day when we, before we left the school for the filming, we just kind of casually told the principal that, yeah, we are also covering the idea of child marriage as well as education. So that was something that we got off with. It's kind of half-truth, I guess. And the last one was when we tried to push our luck and basically wanted to film a child marriage. But we were definitely constantly told, no, you can't film a child marriage because the villagers are very violent to anybody outside of the village. So it has happened that the volunteers from this NGO were being attacked. They were being chased away. They didn't want to break the kind of relationship they had built for so many years with the villagers because it takes a lot of time to persuade one family to send a girl to school to try to delay the marriage. So in the end, we kind of gate crashed another marriage that's legal. So that was how we kind of got off with it. Yeah.
Did the girl and her father see the end result? Did the girl and her father see the end result, the documentary?
Yeah, we actually sent them the DVD, so the NGO played it back to them. Yeah, and the father was quite happy.
What was their reaction? What did they think about it?
Okay, Durga was kind of amused that she's on TV now. Yeah, and then as for the father, he was very thankful, and it kind of really shows him and tells him that how important he is to his daughter. Yeah.
I was wondering what the role of the mother is, because you didn't say anything really about it in the film, only the father.
Right. This is something that we felt through interacting with Durga, because generally Durga speaks a lot about the father. If you realize, she sees the father as the role of the mother and the role of everyone else in her life. But the mother is being placed as a very low status in the family, and I guess it's actually common in all the villagers' family. Basically, the women have no say, and because the mother is not educated, so even when we are off screen chatting, the father will send the mom away. So we just wanted to portray how it is really like when we were there to the audience.
Great. You added a lot of reverb to Durga's voice. What was your motivation for that?
I think because we chose to go with a very intimate way of portraying her story to really allow audience to hopefully connect by seeing the state of mind that she was in. So I think that reverb was I hope it's artistic choice of ours to really bring across this whole feel about entering her state of mind at that point of time when she tells us this story.
For the other films, what were the reactions of your subjects when you
did it change how they saw themselves in their lives?
Yeah, we invited Melvin's mother to the screening the first time after we completed the thing as an official school screening, and yeah, gladly she was very happy with the final result. She's very, very proud of her son, and I think that was the first time Melvin actually saw that from his mother, and it was important that she saw that from that he saw that from his mother, and yeah, it's. At the end of the day, Melvin didn't really have much to worry about. So, yeah, no problem now.
For us, actually, when we gave them the DVD, they were like very happy. And she's
I mean, we don't really know how they feel towards it, but they would like us to go and visit them again, like for a casual visit, like hang out. So I think in future we'll definitely go there again. Because we had a nice time with them.
My subjects loved it. They love being featured. The only one who hasn't seen it would be Nelson's wife. She said she's not ready yet. So when we do decide to screen it, I intend to kind of be at her house and chill, because she's the only one who said, not that she doesn't appreciate the film, just that she'd like to do it at a later point of time. She doesn't visit the Elvis group anymore. So I think she's planning to watch it when she returns to the group. But the other two want cutouts of themselves as Elvis. Yeah.
As for Ruslan, in the start of the production, actually made concern whether it would be shown on TV, like mass audience, like a main channel, mainstream channel. So we actually have to promise him that it will not be screened on television, because he don't want to portray it as an individual who claims that society must give them a second chance. He didn't want to show that, like although we make a mistake, you must give us a second chance. He rather played an idea of, it doesn't matter, how people perceive you, it's all within yourself. And I think passing the DVD, so I think he's quite contented with how it looks like, and it's actually mostly about his voice of his life. So I think we end on quite a happy note regarding that.
I think we have time for any of the audience members to have one last question. Yes.
$0.
Ours was, it was just our documentary was just getting to know them about us and stuff, so we didn't actually spend that much. Maybe
we just buy coffee and then sit down and talk.
Same here. We were all students, so that would definitely be $0. But if you're talking about school budget and what they gave, it's like a 3-figure sum, so I can't really say. It was not a lot. It was basically just to cover transport, and we had equipment provided. And the most that our crew put in was to make sure that our subjects were happy, so we gave them lunch and stuff. So yeah.
For our school, it's basically you can provide us equipment, but otherwise we don't actually have a budget for any project. So basically we're forking out with money. But at the same time, for documentary, we don't have to pay our talent. So basically we're just going to buy food for him, and we're just going to have a chat, and also to cover transport by ourselves. So basically that's pretty much it.
Okay, going to India, that's definitely an amount of money. But yeah, we don't have a budget. We put our money together, we kind of spoke with each other and estimated some costs. So interviewing was definitely no cost. Getting there and the logistics of everything was about 14K? Yeah, 14K definitely. That covers transportation, equipment, insurance, accommodation, hiring a translator to speak the local language. Yeah, that's about 14K.
How big was the team that went to India?
4. Everything was minimum.
Well, I guess I would like to sort of just end with this question. I mean, what I really found very great about this entire selection of short films from you guys was that was very refreshing to see that these are current issues that are being looked at from very young eyes and youths like yourselves, from tackling issues about a single parent, urbanization, old age as well, being given a second chance, and for yours, I mean, it's quite a big topic to handle, child marriage. How important do you feel as a young documentary filmmaker to showcase another slice of Singapore life that's not all about, being in a HDB flat and, the government gives you this, gives you that, but censorship is here and there. It's sort of more mundane, commonly known things. I think pretty much all the stuff that we saw today was sort of a different side of Singapore. So how important do you feel as a role of a documentary filmmaker as yourself is it to portray a different side of Singapore?
I think what I learned from doing my film is that there's a story everywhere around us. So you don't really have to try very hard to look for a story. You just have to observe and talk to people, and and the minute you try to get people to open up to you, that's where the slice of life comes from. So I'm glad that Melvin was courageous enough to tell that story, but he also needed the support of the team and the support of everyone else around him, and that's it.
I think for me it's more of treasuring our past. It's like how the Bangkok itself, how Singapore actually started off from being a kampung to high transit, living in HDB flats, and then I felt that it's something that I would want to document when I go home and watch my past. At least I know that they used to be. This is how the kampung used to be like last time. Yeah.
I think I wanted to show the quirkier sides of Singapore, and I definitely felt the responsibility when someone passed away to deliver this right, to deliver it in a respectful way as well, and to make everybody happy, I guess. I didn't want to overstep my lines, and I didn't want to make these guys seem like fools, but at the same time I know that they like to have fun and they know how to poke fun at themselves, so it was that line between when am I making them seem like idiots on screen and when is it okay. So I was always playing around with a lot of footage, so yeah.
As for me, I first started out as a documentary module. So eventually I found out that everybody has a story to tell. I mean, each of us here, we all have a story to tell, and eventually documentary is just one of the best ways to show it. And in fact, I think it's also a kind of exploration between issues of Singapore. In fact, it's a global thing. You can do it in any country and everywhere. So even after this module, I think I will actually go on to do some more documentaries in the future as well.
I think for us, it's more of showing people out there that Singaporeans can travel to areas which no one has been to. We're there to go to a rural village that takes 45 minutes just by car. And the other thing is we try to break out of a box from a standard documentary. We have explored various use of styles in our documentary, as well as I think the last thing is something that's common throughout today's screenings is that we are using a very personal story to say a larger picture, a bigger story of what different lives are about.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. If I could have a round of applause for our filmmakers for today. If you liked what you saw today, we have a couple more, 2 more days actually, for you to watch documentaries. Tomorrow will be the international short, so if you'd like to see documentaries from Canada, from Spain, from Germany, do come on down tomorrow. And on our last day, we actually have a Singapore premiere from Vladimir Todorovic, quite an established documentary filmmaker in Singapore, and we'll be showing a short film and one of his features that is documenting landscape and how it relates to people. So don't forget, you can get your tickets over here, and you can always drop an email or give us a call to find out more about these films. Thanks very much once again for coming to the 6th Singapore Indie Doc Fest, and hopefully I'll see you guys over the weekend too. Thank you.
Oops, sorry.